The stakes have never been higher. The competition has never been stronger. 42 drivers, 25 rounds. One will be crowned champion. Competition, commitment, excitement. This is Lionheart. Tune in Wednesday nights on the iRacing eSports Network to watch the cars and stars of Lionheart, the Lionheart IndyCar Series presented by First Medical Equipment. It took 11 races, but eventually someone managed to put one over on Modoff. Longtime veteran of the PRL, Christian Eisler puts an assertive period on his response to critics by winning in immaculate fashion at Homestead, Miami. But last week's lesser-used Roval circuit is now followed by one of the most popular tracks on iRacing, Monza. Fast, deceptively simple, and known for close finishes, this Italian track will give us an idea as to whether the Iceman's pace was a fluke or for real. Let's see who wins at the Temple of Speed as we get ready to watch round 4 of the PRL GTE Sportscar Series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing channel and the iRacing eSports Network. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Nick Schmeg. Behind the scenes is our director Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Nick, the draft came into play last week, and I suspect it'll still be a factor today.
Yes, indeed. We saw that play a factor last week in the PRL Radical Racing Series here at Monza as well, and I agree with you, Joe. I think it'll come into play tonight for these GT cars. When you think of racing events at Monza, the first thing that probably comes to mind is Formula One's Italian Grand Prix. However, falling in the shadows of the open-wheeled spectacle, 6 of the 7 major events that happen here annually instead involve GT cars. The sheer power of these 4 different cars used tonight are unleashed here at Monza, over 3.6 miles or 5.8 kilometers of just absolute power. That power does get interrupted a few times though, with 11 turns. That turn 1 chicane, the 2 Lesmos, Ascari, and Parabolica are all both iconic and unique in their own ways. Racing here in the northern part of Italy requires a steady combination between bravery and finesse. Regardless of whatever the series is, Autodromo Nazionale Monza is sure to put on a great show. To take a closer look at the Round 4 circuit of choice, allow me to send you down to the very long straightaway here at Monza for the GSRC lap guide.
All right, we've got Taylor Burris in the GSRC 4 GT, so let's do a lap around Monza. Down the pit straight, you'll come up to Rettifilio with a huge amount of speed. Expect the draft to allow drivers a good chance to attack into here. But it'll be tricky to nail the braking, especially if you're trying to take it that couple feet farther. It's not uncommon to see drivers take a cut course penalty here. Stay off those large curves, get the power down, and now you're on your way towards Curva Grande. There's nothing much to this corner in a modern GT car. Just hug the inside to make it the shortest distance possible. However, once again, because of the speeds you'll reach, the driver behind could find the slipstream and then attempt to overtake in Della Roggia. But just like the first chicane, there's a big danger in either cutting the chicane itself or taking way too much curb by getting greedy. Both will be costly. After that, you've got a short blast to the first Lesmo. It's always tempting to turn in too early to this corner, but if you do that, you'll probably just understeer off on the exit. There's not a terribly long straight down to the second Lesmo, so it'll be rare to see passes into here despite being the sharper of the two corners. Besides, it's much more important to get yourself a good launch because it's another long run down to Ascari. This last chicane is unique compared to the other two in the way it has 3 apexes and is taken quite a bit faster. The shallow curbs are fine, but avoid those black and yellow pills which can actually damage the car if you're not careful. Another good corner exit is important, but this time pass attempts into Parabolica might be a bit more rare. There isn't quite as much braking into here as some of the other corners, and it's also smarter to just wait until the front stretch to utilize the draft. This 180-degree bend really opens up on the exit, so you'll get back on the throttle earlier than you expect. And that'll be really important to keep yourself from getting swamped by everyone else who found the power sooner than you. But hopefully you've now finished a lap around Monza. Get a sense of the incredible speed that these cars start to reach at the end of some of these straightaways. But as always, today's race is brought to you by SimMSA. The Simulation Motorsports Association is a sim racing platform created by experienced racers. Established in 2015 and supported by the International Sim Racing Federation, the association is bringing together organizations and communities to further promote sim racing globally. Concentrating on all sims worldwide, they offer a focused opportunity for sim racers to compete with each other. They also provide consultancy services to this growing esports world. SimMSA offers solutions for racing simulator requirements and custom-built simulator parts, as well as complete customization and upgrading of existing simulators. You can find them at SIMMSA.net. Today's broadcast is also proudly sponsored by Frazier Deeter. Frazier Deeter is a nationally recognized PCAOB registered CPA and advisory firm headquartered in Atlanta with thousands of clients globally. It provides a wide range of services, including tax, audit, advisory, internal controls, and transaction support to achieve each client's unique financial goals. With offices in Alpharetta, Atlanta, Las Vegas, Nashville, and Tampa, Frazier Deeter has consistently been named a best of the best CPA firm by Inside Public Accounting and is ranked among the top 60 largest CPA firms in the United States. You can find them at FrazierDeeter.com. Now, as we wait for qualifying to work its way through, let's go to Nick, the championship, spicing up a little bit now after last round.
Yes, indeed. Like you mentioned, we did not see Karl Modhoff get the win last week. That being said, though, he does retain the points lead. He has a 13-point lead over Sean McBeth. Those two drivers up at the top of the board, the only two drivers that have finished in the top 5 in every single race as well. But we did see the Iceman break through last week. He's tied with Sean McBeth for second. He is that other driver with a win. So watch out for the Team Bushfink Racing driver of Eisler, because he is on a move forward. That's a progression of 3 spots that he gained, bumped Jorge Flores and Andres Espinoza down. They're separated by 1 point between 4th and 5th right now. We also have a team's championship that these drivers are fighting for, which at times can get just as exciting as the Drivers' Championship, especially to follow throughout the year, because look at that. It is a 1-point lead for Speedworks Racing Team North with Sean McBeth and Dan Revito over the Speedworks Racing Team West with Jean-Marc Tremblay and Flores behind them. 10 points back, the Kokomoto Racing Team with Modhoff and Clark, and 12 points behind them, Team Bushfink Racing has jumped SRT Team East, who drops to 5th with Espinoza and Thurman on that team.
Thanks for that, Nick. Why don't we also take a glance at what today's race will involve with the race details. We are in round 4 out of 10, so getting close to halfway. They will get a drop week, you can see. That's what that little droplet signifies. Basically, the worst result will not be counted in their points. There's the 4 different makes of cars that you can run today. It is a 45-minute sprint race for this round, and there will be 1 pit stop for fuel because they've limited what the real cars in the GTE class can run here in the sim, hence why they can't go the entire race. This will be a thirsty track, but it'll still be a pretty wide window, we expect. They have an incident cap of 24. If you go over that, you will be disqualified immediately. They also have no spare car to save them. So if you get any sort of damage, you're going to have to go and get that fixed, especially on a track where aerodynamics is incredibly important. This race, as has the whole season, been brought to you on the iRacing eSports Network. Big thanks to iRacing for bringing us on. We highly encourage everyone watching to subscribe to IESN. All you got to do is go to their YouTube page and click the big red button that says subscribe. So looking at our qualifying, it's been swapping around a fair bit, and they can use the draft out there, but I haven't seen many of the top drivers using that draft to try and get tricky. It's currently Dzube up at the top, Nick, and check this out. We were looking at this guy in the warm-up. He seemed fast, and he's fast in qualifying. Zach Hefner.
Yeah, the newcomer, Zach Hefner in the 123, the driver out of Ohio, looking mighty fast in his debut tonight.
And he immediately decides he wants to go back into the pits before he takes another run. Our current points leader, Karl Modhoff, has been bumped down to third by Dzube and Hefner. He's still got about 3/10 to make up to try and get the pole away. He started on pole last race at Homestead, Miami, but couldn't keep the pace up, had a little bit of contact during the race, but other than that, also seemed to be struggling in general as he was passed on track by Christian Eisler. Right on board, heading down towards the Parabolica. Ben Perez finds himself in the mix once again. Longtime member here in the PRL. Returns, he's sitting in fourth. Let's see what Karl's got underneath him for this lap. It's a 44.4 currently for his fastest. That was his first one. Nick, he's going to cross the line. Let's see what he's got.
You know, you mentioned Modhoff's struggles last week. He didn't just get bumped off the top step of the podium either. He got bumped off the podium completely. So with Karl Modhoff sitting third right now, would not be surprised. I mean, he's definitely going to want to get back up in that top three, and I'm sure back up to that winning pedestal.
And unfortunately, that last lap did not count for him, which is relatively easy to do with all the chicanes around here. So it kind of makes me wonder, as we watch Brett Thurman come across, and looks like he's not able to improve. It makes me wonder if that incident limit will play a part in this race.
It definitely could. We have a 24 incident maximum for these drivers tonight. I don't, foresee that becoming too huge of an issue on this, because you're going to have to throw some car contacts in there. So if you can keep it relatively clean, I think through the first lap and the first chicane, the famous turn 1, turn 2 chicane, I think you should be in good shape for the race.
Switching over to Gary Schilling, one of two drivers who has not put a lap time in yet. This one coming across, well, unfortunately will not count either, so Gary will have to go around in that Bimmer one more time. Waiting for him and Pablo Uribe to finally get their first laps in. Pablo's actually not even out on track for the moment. So let's go back to Karl Modhoff in third, because he's coming around to complete another lap. He's in Parabolica right now. He's less than a tenth behind Hefner in second place. He is towing along Hefner himself, actually. And he's going to pull over and let him through this last lap for Modhoff, not his fastest. Hefner, for that one, did not count. This is Dzube still up on pole. He's got a handy 2/10 over Zach Hefner.
Yeah, Tyler Dzube looked really fast in practice. We were talking about that in the pre-race, or before the broadcast started. A couple of the drivers were separated by 1 second, and then Dzube went out there and put an extra 3/10 on everyone.
This is Leif Peterson. That's not going to be a faster lap for him, sadly. As he crosses, stays where he is. Looking through. Flores comes across, sitting in 7th place. Fastest at a 44.7. Last lap, again, not going to count for him. How about Pete Mobrotten? He's going to complete his lap. He sits in 12th, looking to crack into the top 10 with just about a minute left to go, so if he continues on, this will be his last timed lap that he's just started, and he did not improve either. So as we take a glance at Zachary Hefner, now coming through, he's also going to get one more chance to try and swing around. Number 1, 2, 3 has certainly impressed us so far. Can he further improve? And it looks like no, he cannot. Last lap again did not count.
Karl Modoff also coming out of Parabolica right now. He's sitting third right now still. Only 5/1000ths back from... actually, he's dropped to fourth, it looks like. Looks like Sean Macbeth has jumped him. Pete Mobrotten coming through Parabolica right now as well. And that BMW sitting 12th right now. He is quite a ways off. It looks like he's going through, going into the pits as well right now. A lot of drivers really pushing the issue here early. In qualifying, you can push the issue to a certain extent, but a lot of guys getting those off tracks. That being said, everyone looks like they're on their last lap here.
Take a look at Federico Montini here. He's going to try and improve. He's down in 9th. But it's a slow lap for him. Zach Hefner is right behind him, actually. This lap, he did not improve yet again. That's the last try that he's going to get.
Karl Modoff coming across the line one final time. He is going to bump himself up to 2nd place with that. So Karl Modoff was a little worried, I think, maybe of Zach Hefner, but he is going to finally bump himself up onto that front row. Federico Montini looks to be the last driver coming through in his number 5 Porsche. Might not have the time to put it in. They do get a little extra time on this final lap, but headed down and up through Ascari right now. He's got to hustle. I'm not sure he's going to be able to pull this off. Just a few seconds left on the clock. Yeah, it's not looking great for Montini, but the good news for him is that the 5 car there is sitting in 9th place. So with that being said, that is going to do it for our qualifying today. So we're going to go on to the grid. Tyler DeZube and Karl Modoff share row 1. Modoff just bumping off Zach Hefner. He's going to be followed by Sean Macbeth and Christian Eisler rounding out the top 5. Ben Perez and Abner Acosta will follow in the 74 and 35 cars respectively. Jorge Flores and Federico Montini, along with Andres Espinoza, will round out the top 10. Fernando Borda, Justin Ream will make up row 6. Row 7 goes to Pete Mobrotten and Dan Ravito. Mike Cray from the PRL NASCAR Truck Series as well will be racing tomorrow night. He's going to be in 15th. Daniel Rooney, Brett Thurman, Maxie Sorella, Corey Clark, and Leif Peterson are going to round out the top 20, followed by Ken Rodriguez, Tyler Gilmet, Jean-Marc Tremblay, a little further down the field than we're used to seeing, I think, for Tremblay there. Sebastian Massiera and Josh Daniels will be your top 25. Further on back, row number 13, going to go to James LeBond and Hugo Galaz, Jerome Bertum and Cristobal Valenzuela. Behind them, Mike Richter, going to round out the top 30. We have a big 37-car field here tonight. Lucio Vargas, Takeshi Kita, Joey Trungale, and Manuel Paredes, who are going to be back through 34th. Danny Duchesne in the 27. He's going to be the last driver to get a time in qualifying. He'll start 35th. Pablo Uribe in that red number 23 Ford. Yes, Ford. He'll be back there in 36th. And Gary Schilling is going to round out this very large 37-car pack here at Monza. It is not going to be a full pace lap for these drivers, so hopefully they've got the nerves worked out because they have less than 3.6 miles to get them out. Just a couple of turns waiting for everyone to grid up here, and then Tyler DeZube in the 21 is going to lead them around behind the iRacing Porsche safety car as well. Karl Modoff is going to be given the outside pole, that is, so it's going to be interesting to see what the 48 can do. Of course, Karl Modoff wanting to get back to victory lane here, I'm sure. A couple of SRT teammates back in row 2 as well. Zach Hefner, Sean Macbeth. Hefner is a newcomer, but that paint scheme that he has, that livery that he has, not new at all. We've seen the Speedworks Racing team guys be very dominant in multiple iRacing series. They are a well-renowned team. What very well-respected talent has come out of Speedworks Racing team. But it is that orange Ferrari of Tyler DeZube at the front, and that green Porsche of Karl Modoff in the 48. They'll go through Parabolica under pace speed only one time tonight, but it's a long 45-minute race. And after that, they're going to want to pick up that pace. Tyler DeZube is going to lead him out of Parabolica onto the very long front stretches, one of the longest in all of racing. The pace car has pulled off. It is under the control of DeZube. And the green flag is out. Modoff's going to slot in right behind him. And already a move for second. Zach Hefner looking to the outside, but watch out for turn 1. It is notorious here at Monza for spilling chaos. Tyler DeZube hard on the brakes, followed by everyone. It looks clean so far at the front of the field. I think just about everyone getting through there. Back further, there's some trouble involving Daniel Rooney. We'll take a look at that in a couple of moments. But right now, back up at the front of the field, it is Tyler DeZube leading the field. Zach Hefner has found his way around Modoff for second. And that puts Modoff down into third. Through the Lesmos for the first time this evening, Tyler DeZube trying to pull away, but this draft here also effective. Further contact further back in the field. They are all stacking up behind them. Abner Acosta right now has a large, has quite the traffic jam behind him as they head up through Ascari for the first time. Looks like Christian Eisler was the driver with trouble, so that's an unfortunate start for this race for him. Last week's winner at Homestead Miami Speedway. Down into Parabolica for the first time. DeZube is under pressure from the newcomer, Zach Hefner, out of the Buckeye State. Taking a look at Hefner riding with him. Down the front stretch. This draft is going to allow him to go for the move down on the inside. I think he's going to have it. He has help from Modoff behind him as well. Down into turn 1. Can't quite clear him before he gets there. They are side by side, nose to nose. He's going to get him. New leader here at Monza goes to Zachary Hefner in the 1-2-3 machine. Modoff looking for second. He's looking on the outside. He's going to fall back in behind him and use that draft to his advantage as they head down into this tight chicane. They're going to be hard on the brakes. Everyone bunching up, and they get back on the gas, kind of like a slinky. Modoff really hit that one of those big sausage curbs down there as well. You got to be careful of that because you can see how big of a gap that put in between them and how much that helped Tyler DeZube. Take a ride with Zach Hefner here, looking back at these 3 cars chasing him. Haven't talked much about Sean Macbeth. He's in 4th there, riding with these guys. Teammates with DeZube, or with Hefner rather. Through Ascari for the 2nd time. Everyone trying to string themselves out. They've put a big gap in between them and Justin Rame, who's moved himself into 5th. What a great start for Rame, going from 12th to 5th right off the start. No moves being made down into Parabolica. Oh, there is a heck of a battle back here, back around 15th place. Take a look, Tyler Gilmet. He's riding in 14th right now, and he's got a train of cars behind him. That's Maxi Sorella and Sebastian Massiera, and a whole parking lot behind him. Saw a moment ago just at the top of the screen as well, Sean Macbeth riding there in 4th, set the fastest lap, so he might be saving up something later in the race. We'll have to keep that in mind. A couple of BMWs battling back here. That's Maxi Sorella and Sebastian Massiera getting that position over him. That's for 15th. Move themselves further up in the points throughout the race. I'm sure those team tactics will come into play. A little bit of a battle behind them as well. Hugo Gallas trying to hold off Jean-Marc Tremblay, but down into the chicane. Tremblay is going to put a lot of pressure on him. That SRT driver can't make that work there. Gallas going to hold down the fort in P18 for now. Valenzuela behind him. Cristobal Valenzuela. Ken Rodriguez looking to the inside in the 2nd Lesmo. Stuck the nose down in there, but that Ferrari can't quite get side by side. This is a battle to try to break into the top 20. Oh, it is tight going up through Ascari. Kenneth Rodriguez is going to make that work. It looks like Cristobal Valenzuela, I think, wisely got off the power a little earlier there, and that'll move Rodriguez up from 21st to 20th. Back up front, your leaders. We haven't seen any change there. Hefner still leads DeZube, Modoff, and Macbeth. Macbeth has fallen off the pack a little bit. Zach Hefner just set the fastest lap of this race, which is impressive, given that he has no draft in front of him. That 1-2-3 machine has a lot of power in it, and a very talented driver as well. Gonna have to look back at the battle for 5th, because it looks like Andres Espinoza, he's holding off Justin Rame, who's falling back, and Abner Acosta looking to the outside. Almost a little bit of contact made there through this very long and fast turn number 3. Oh, he's got a run coming down as well. Be able to try a move there. Wasn't able to. They've got a long string of cars behind him. Federico Montini, Borda, Ravito, and all in this bunch. Justin Rame now has a of Abner Acosta, not just because it's a BMW, because he is fast and moving forward, looking to the outside here. He's going to try a bit of a crossover. I'm not sure that's going to work very well through Ascari. A set of S's there. Oh, he gets very wide out of there. You can do that. You just don't want to rip up the underside of the car. Don't want any suspension issues, especially this early on in the race. Only on lap 4, just 7 minutes in to this event. This 45-minute race for these guys here in the PRL GT Sports Car Series. Battle for 18th right now. Hugo Galaz holding off Jean-Marc Tremblay behind him. Looks like Tremblay actually getting to the outside there. Might make that work, but it looks like Galaz, since they are coming back onto the front stretch, I wouldn't be surprised if that 18 car slots back in behind and gets a hefty draft down into turn number 1. That's exactly what he's going to do. He picks up that little bit of slipstream, Slingshots himself down. He's going to have to duck back in line, but Tremblay blows through the corner. That'll be a slowdown penalty for him for sure. And he'll lose that position and probably many more as well. Battle for 7th rages on. Took a look at this a moment ago. Abner Acosta has moved himself up there. Justin Rame fell back. Back to 9th, it looks like. Back to 8th, rather. And Federico Montini is the car that he is chasing down. But Rame's got to be careful because Borda, Revito, Mabrotten, and even Brett Thurman are right behind him. Five laps in. Let's check in on the leader. These three drivers have left Sean McBeth in the dust. They've left him back in Scotland. Zach Hefner has kept the lead. Dzube has not quite challenged Hefner, but he's definitely there, definitely continues to put the pressure on. I think right now these three drivers all kind of nose to tail right now, working together to break away from the rest of the field, log off laps early on. Don't see Modoff stepping out of line here a little bit. Well, we do actually now. Down to turn 1, takes a little bit of a peek around Dzube. Gonna stay in line though through turns 1 and 2. We see this strategy a lot in the Mazda races that we cover here on Global Sim Racing Channel. A lot of guys like to string themselves together. As we took a look back through 7th place. Ooh, Montini. He is having to hold off behind them. Justin Rame and Borda. Borda is all over the back of Rame, and I almost want to say Rame got a bit of a slowdown penalty through that because he seemed really slow with Borda all over the back of him. But nonetheless, Borda is not going to be able to gain 8th place over Justin Rame yet, but that caused a major stack up as they hop over the curbs aggressively. Dan Revito and Pete Mabrotten behind them have also joined this string of cars. Driver is getting aggressive, kicking out into the gravel trap a little bit. Joe mentioned in the pre-show that we'll have to watch to see if that 24 incident maximum will come into effect. Bit of a battle for the lead. Dzube was looking, didn't quite get it done, and that's going to put Karl Modoff all over the back bumper of that number 21 Ferrari. Let's see if he takes a look down into here to Parabolica. He's going to get on the brakes a little earlier. It's going to put Dzube up right on the rear of Zach Hefner. Down the front stretch once again. 34 minutes left. Looking into turn 1. Dzube's making a move. Can he clear him before he gets there? Not quite. In fact, he's going to not even have the advantage, it looks like. That's going to shift back to Zach Hefner. Hard on the gas out of turn number 2 and down into 3. Which for the most part is a straightaway, or taking it flat out, but that line goes back to Dzube. He'll have the advantage for now. But at the next turn they have is a left-hander. You see Zach Hefner fall in line there through the chicane. Oh, hard on the curbs is Tyler Dzube. The right side wheels were all the way up in the air. Eighth place right now, raging on. Justin Rame continues to struggle. He's got Fernando Borda behind him still. And Borda really has not been able to get around him, but I think he's got the faster car than Justin Rame right now. Justin in that number 88 Porsche just does not look like he's having a fun start to this race. I'm wondering if he picked up any suspension damage or something, or if he just has a really good qualifying lap for that car. Might be a bit of a connection struggle as well. We saw him blink out there for a moment. Behind him, we saw his teammate and Dan Revito try to make a move around Fernando Borda, but that kind of stalled out through Ascari. Borda will continue to chase him. Let's take a look back deep in the mid-pack of the field. 20th place right now. It's a battle between Cristobal Valenzuela and Jean-Marc Tremblay. Tremblay was struggling earlier. He's gotten himself back up here to 21st. And actually, it's an improvement nonetheless because he started in 23rd. So he was on the move very early in this race, that means. Down the front stretch. Once again, all that draft you can see working together. They're able to slingshot to an extent, but with the addition of this turn 1 chicane in the Grand Prix layout here at Monza, it kind of makes it that awkward length where it's just long enough where they can get up alongside of the car in front of them. They struggle to make the overtake happen. Let's take a look back behind him at 22nd right now. Mike Richter and Takeshi Kita in a bit of a battle. And Takeshi Kita, I was a little surprised to see him start way back in 32nd. I'm not surprised to see him charge forward all the way to 23rd. He just got that pass over Mike Richter, and Mike Richter now has Jorge Flores, who started up in 8th. He had lap 1, turn 1 troubles, and you can see with that really badly bent rear wing. Flores struggling aerodynamically with that damage that you can see on screen there. That is a very symmetrically bent wing. Corey Clark in the number 25, or number 24 car rather, in 25th is that car behind him, and I think he might be able to take him over here. Gonna have to check in on the leaders though, because we have a battle amongst them. Karl Modhoff has moved himself up into 2nd. He's gotten around Tyler DeZube, and he was looking for the lead down into turn 1, but Zach Hefner shut the door once again. This 123 is a force to be reckoned with for sure. We can report that Justin Rame has appeared to lose connection. Looks like he might be back, but some hardware issues for Rame that he is struggling with for sure. Take a look at 9th place, Fernando Borda. He went a little wide there. Pete Mabrotten coming up from 11th earlier on in this lap. He's making moves. He's going to duck back in line, and that really allowed Brett Thurman in the number 69 machine as well to close in on him. Nice little 3-car gaggle here. Through Ascari. Haven't seen too many moves down into Parabolica, but it's a risky turn to make moves for sure. And a pass for the lead. Let's take a replay of this because Karl Modhoff, it took him 10 laps, but he has moved himself up into the lead. He's gotten around Zube, he's gotten around Hefner. And we'll take a look at this now. Down the front stretch, as I suspected, got that nice toe. Little lap car traffic there, didn't have any effect on him, but down into turn 1 and just made it stick. Though you can see the veteran move there by Modhoff. We've seen a lot of cars as we come back live. We've seen a lot of drivers try that move, and they've kind of stalled out in the middle of turn 1 as all 3 of these leaders really aggressive. All 3 of them kicking up some kitty litter there. Uphill and into the aggressive and technical chicane of Ascari. Series of S's, I should say, instead of a chicane. And it looks like Tyler DeZube is falling off just a little bit. Hefner staying with Karl Modhoff for the lead, but let's take a look at 5th place right now. Andres Espinoza trying to hold off Abner Acosta. I don't think Acosta is going to be able to get to him close enough. We might need to jump back to the leaders, though, because Zach Hefner was just about to make a move on Modoff for the lead. Down into turn 1, he wasn't able to make it work. Didn't quite take a peek. He went out to the right just a little bit. Decided to fall back in line, and that really helped Tyler DeZube reel these guys back in. That gap shrunk because DeZube in the 21 car was really losing them. It was up to over a second behind the leader. The gap between the two drivers in front of him is much tighter. Karl Modoff leading Zach Hefner. And we're just about halfway through this race. Bit of a battle here for 17th place, it looks like. Jean-Marc Tremblay and Maxi Sorella, both of these drivers moving up, especially Tremblay moving up 5 spots from the start. Take a look at Jean-Marc Tremblay. He didn't qualify where he wanted to, I'm sure, back in 23rd. You know, Tremblay has been doing pretty fantastic this season. He's up in 7th in the points right now. The leaders right now has changed hands once again. Zach Hefner has taken control of that top spot. He's slingshot back around to Karl Modoff. Tyler DeZube has not lost any ground on him, is sitting in 3rd place. They make themselves through turn numbers 1 and 2 once again. And no answer there from Modoff. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw that in the next lap, though. And I mentioned a little bit ago that we were almost halfway through this race, 20 minutes in. Josh Daniels is our first scheduled pitter of the evening in the 07 machine. Looks like Cristobal Valenzuela joining him. Justin Rame ahead of him as well. This is a thirsty track, as Joe mentioned in the pre-race, but the pit window, nonetheless, is going to be pretty wide, we have a feeling. Battle for the lead back on screen. This one has not let up at all since the green flag has dropped, but this time it is Karl Modoff chasing Hefner. It's swapped back and forth a couple times now. DeZube has pretty steadily stayed in 3rd. He's losing him slowly. I'll be interested to see what his strategy is when it comes to pitting. He might be able to jump one of these guys. And I have a similar question for Hefner and Modoff as well. When will they come in? We've seen these drivers in the PRL GTE series stretch themselves out very thin in terms of fuel on these longer runs to start the race. No move there from Karl Modoff. As we look back in 5th place, Andres Espinoza has found his way around Abner Acosta. Espinoza, one of the drivers moving forward quickly in the field. He started back in 10th, and this is going to break him into the top 5. He sits 5th in points right now. He's having a good season, I'm sure. Going. Didn't have a great week last week at Homestead with an 8th place finish. Picked up some damage in that race as well, if I can recall. Check back in on the mid-pack. 18th place. Corey Clark, haven't seen too much of him today. We've been more focused on his teammate up in Karl Modoff. And this is a little further back than expected for Corey Clark to be running. He's holding off Flores right now, who was a little aerodynamically challenged throughout this race with that lap 1 contact he was involved in. Oh, he's going to get around Clark, though. Clark gets, he runs wide there. Uribe there, not for, or he is for position, rather. So that bright red number 23 Ford GT will also gain a spot. And that's going to put Corey Clark back into 20th. Pete Mobrotten trying to use the draft to his advantage down here on the front stretch, but Brett Thurman, I think, is going to use it to his advantage a little bit more. He was chasing him in these two BMWs down into turn 1. Looks like Brett Thurman is going to gain that position, and another Speedworks Racing Team car moves up a position. This was for 9th place. '19th place, getting good through turn 1. Corey Clark holding off. Corey Clark has just lost 18th, it looks like, to Pablo Uribe. That red number 23 Ford is really moving up. And as we take a look at him, he's moving up, and someone moving up back into the booth is my colleague Joe Peak.
Yes, thanks. Apologies for the absence there. Just had to sort out a few gremlins. Still got plenty of racing left to go here in Monza as we watch Uribe work his way through the Lesmos, being chased by Clark there. And Jorge Flores far down the order from where he started at the start. Fortunately, didn't get to witness much of the action here as I was trying to sort out my problems, so you'll have to fill me in a little bit of what went down. Looks like Corey Clark going to back out before he attempts a pass into Ascari. Looks like Hefner, Modoff, Dzube, the main ones fighting for this lead as they continue to trail Macbeth and Espinoza behind them, and 4th and 5th. As Nick was saying earlier, Dzube just sort of hanging back in that 3rd popcorn position, waiting things out, letting the race come to him. We're now past halfway through, and I see we have a couple other pitters. Gilmet and Sorella have both come in.
Pit window is certainly open. Those drivers coming in a little later than others, but still relatively early for the rest of the field.
Peterson in as well. Surprisingly far down the order for Leif Peterson, who tends to be strong in these GTE cars. Did not get a good qualifying. Still running well down the order. Hopping over to 10th place. Got another little train. Not surprising here at Monza. Brett Thurman leads Pete Mobrotten. Leads Fernando Borda. This is all essentially for a battle for 9th. You see Brett in the Speedworks Porsche. Going under the oval up towards Ascari. Not close enough for Mobrotten in that BMW. Heard some drivers complain a little bit about the BOP between the Porsche and the other cars. Especially last week at a track that had a lot of long straights. That's not dominating quite today. In fact, Ferrari faring well at its home circuit. Espinoza now pitting from up towards the front of the pack. Daniels, our highest pitter so far. He hits his stall. Pit stop's very costly with the fast laps around this track. We're going to look back at that battle for the podium one more time. Nothing's changed since we last looked at it. It's still Hefner in the lead. Modoff running 2nd. Dzube in 3rd. They've stretched the gap to Macbeth back in 4th to 2.7 seconds. But really the bigger gap is down to Acosta, who is 7 seconds behind Macbeth, running P5.
Yeah, Macbeth was joining these 3 drivers up at the top of the board for the first half dozen laps or so, but just kind of lost pace after a while. He's trying to continue this streak, him and Modoff of top 5s. They're the only 2 drivers that have finished top 5 every race so far this season.
Macbeth on 2 podiums even himself, as he sits in 4th, just off those podium positions. Top 3 are coming around. Curious to see if they'll come in this time or if they're going to stretch it farther, especially someone like Dzube, who's been sitting back there saving fuel. They are all 3 going to stay out, but Macbeth is coming in.
We'll see if I doubt Macbeth's going to be able to have a good enough pit stop to jump any of these 3 guys in front of him, but he might be able to close that gap pretty significantly.
Is this potentially in response to Espinosa as well? He's coming around. We are on board with the California. Macbeth getting his fuel. Now watching from Espinosa's view. Macbeth is going. 11-second stop. Relatively decent.
And Espinosa through Parabolica right now, coming onto the front stretch.
Getting his speed up. Macbeth, it takes a while to get these cars wound up at a track like this, but he is definitely clear of Espinosa, who looks like is going to be multiple seconds behind. Bad news for Macbeth, though. He is caught behind Hugo Galaz, so lap traffic could slow him down. We'll see how quickly he's able to dispose of this Porsche. Down to the inside, down, awful tight under braking. Galaz eventually gives him space, but Macbeth gets through in the 9th. Oh, and Hefner announces that he's pitting in.
Alrighty, so what will the response be behind him, I wonder, with Modoff and Dzube? It looks like they are all... No!
Oh, no!
They duck out of the last second.
Wow. Little bit of a juke. They're going to leave him to go by himself. We saw Macbeth. You said you didn't think that he would be able to jump them in the pits. It was a little over 2 seconds, not quite 3. A slow pit stop could do it. An error in the pits. Macbeth, remember, also had the traffic of Galaz to deal with. Also has Tremblay in front of him.
Macbeth coming through Parabolica right now. Kind of offline, though, because of lap traffic.
Going to get a nice slipstream, but you saw that Hef was already out of his stall and on his way. Macbeth running down the front stretch, but down to the first chicane. Hefner's going to have him easily. As it comes down between them, Macbeth did indeed lose time in that exchange. It is nearly 4 seconds between them now. So here's the question for you, Nick. If you are Modoff and Dzube, do you respond or do you stay out?
Well, it's a precarious situation for Dzube because he's been saving this entire race sitting there in 3rd. But at the same time, I think the only way he's going to be able to get around Modoff and Hefner is if he jumps them in the pits. So I think they're both going to end up coming in this lap. I don't see Dzube staying out, and I really think Modoff should answer him with pitting here. But we will see, because they're coming through Parabolica now. Looks like Dzube is winding himself up for the pits, and so is Modoff. They both come in.
Both breaking down for the pit speed limiters. We often will see drivers go in a little bit too hot. Even in real life, that happens. Acosta going to come in. So Hefner comes up to Parabolica. He was the first to blink. But can he get out quick enough? It was 10.9 seconds. So pretty good stop, pretty good stationary time for the Ferrari as we ride, or we're riding on board. Dzube already heading out. Remember, they got to get their speed going. Modoff is able to stay ahead of Dzube. So looks like that fuel saving might not have worked out for him. There goes Hefner. He's past Dzube, but is he going to be able to be past Modoff? They're in the braking zone, side by side. Modoff's got the inside, but it switches back the other way around for the second apex. Hefner tries to get onto the power. It is a drag race now. Zachary with just a nose ahead, but he's got the outside of Curva Grande. This gives a little bit of an edge to Karl Modoff. Now it swings back into De La Roja, still door to door. Who is going to get it into this corner? Zach Hefner looking strong on the brakes, and I think he's got it.
He used that curb to his advantage. Didn't get a slowdown penalty for that either. Did that perfectly. The pressure from Modoff is not letting up at all through the two Lesmos. Modoff all over the back bumper of that 123 Ferrari.
Eventually, you win enough races, everybody starts aiming for you. And newcomer Zach Hefner certainly thinks he's got something for Karl Modoff. He's got to survive for 11 minutes in front of him. A tough ask. Oh, as he almost gets in the back of him, a little bit of contact into Ascari.
He was just about pushing him up through Ascari. Hefner able to hold on to it, and Modoff able to hold on to second place as well. Dzube had to check up big time for that.
Yeah, I have a feeling that Tyler's watching this whole thing going, you guys just duke it out all you want. I'm ready to pick up the scraps. But Hefner pulls himself a slight gap after Modoff has to back off through the final chicane. This costs him the slipstream, but Dzube has got a nice little draft, and in fact, he is going to look to the inside down the front stretch. If these two start fighting, this could cost them further time up to our new leader. He stalls out as they come to the braking for Retafilio. Modoff holds it around the outside of the first apex. Oh, yet more contact through the chicanes.
Don't look now, but there's a driver that's been lurking in fourth place for this entire race that is closing in on these guys because of this. That's Sean McBeth.
Beth knows how to get podiums. He's within sight of them. He has certainly chopped that down. What was over 2 seconds before the pit stops is down to 0.8 of a second, and I'd say he is now well within the slipstream. We ride on board with the 252. Ooh, all the way off course for Karl Modoff, trying everything he can to try and regain ground on Zach Hefner. In fact, Hefner's pulled the gap to about 1.3 seconds now.
Yeah, he has. He's enjoying that clean air, I'm sure, and that checkup that happened behind him with Modoff and Dzube just excelled him even further up there in the lead.
Wow.
Dzube, everyone pushing these track limits as far out as they can.
You saw 4 wheels off yet again from Karl Modoff coming off of the Ascari chicane. Now they break for Parabolica. As they come to the pit straight, is Modoff going to be close enough to catch a whiff of the slipstream? Dzube is certainly much closer to him, and now McBeth definitely is going to be getting a little bit of a tow. What is Dzube going to do? Is it worth him fighting? Should he work together with Modoff? Let's find out. Nope, he's not going to work together with him. He pulls to the inside, this time much stronger on the brakes. Modoff maybe letting him through, but in that, he allows a chance for McBeth to get into third. Doesn't quite pan out, but now Sean McBeth knows that it is possible to get onto this podium. Ooh, ducking around the outside of the last moment.
Through Curva Grande. McBeth looking on the outside, still very tight.
Modoff tries to shut the door, but it's a little bit too late. Oh, that was a
he's
lot.
gonna
Oh, and they come together. McBeth gets completely turned around. Karl Modoff loses more time. Damage for both cars. I wonder if maybe McBeth was trying to serve a slowdown penalty with how much he cut in on that first apex.
It's possible, but man, Modoff just got such a huge run through De La Roja.
We've got the replay.
And McBeth was off in the gravel a little bit, so he was probably trying to rejoin the track as well. So I think Modoff was moving over to the left. McBeth was moving back over to the right.
Look at how aggressive it was getting with the defense that Modoff was giving. Oof, just that little bit of contact. Modoff was trying to keep from pushing him fully around, but once McBeth's car was perpendicular, there was no helping it. What has this done? Well, Hefner now has 1.2 seconds over Dzube. Modov 4 seconds behind, back in third place. He's got a lot of chasing to do on Tyler. And Macbeth a further 5 seconds back from Modov. In fact, he's now looking at his mirrors because Abner Acosta is running him down to within a second. Back in 9th place, got a little bit of a train going. Brett Thurman just inside the top 10. Seeing if he could do anything with Pete Mobrotten. And then don't forget Fernando Borda behind them. He's got a nice little run on the front stretch. He's going to take his chances on the breaking into Rettifilio. He's got the inside. Looks strong on the binders, but can he seal the deal? Little bit wide at the first apex. Brett Thurman's going to have to give that one up, move Borda into P10.
These guys have been duking it out all race long, all throughout the 45 minutes, and Borda has been stuck behind some slow cars. Luck has not gone his way tonight, so he's going to be able to jump Thurman there.
Going back to 14th, talk about a big climb from 27th on the grid now to 14th position. This is Hugo Galaz. Corey Clark is going to try something on him. He's got the inside line down into De La Roja. This didn't work out for our leaders before. How's it going to work out for these two? Corey Clark, nice and smooth. No such dramas. Clark now up to 14th. Our hard chargers of this race, though, you got to give it up to Josh Daniels, who's in 12th. He qualified in 25th. Now, he's ahead of Pablo Uribe, but Uribe did not put a qualifying time in, so not sure if this one would be counted. If you ask Bill Zahn, it won't. Josh Daniels certainly commendable out there. This is a bad day for Macbeth. His podium streak doesn't look like it's going to continue. Here comes Acosta going around the outside, but he's fighting for all that he's worth. The Speedworks driver manages to keep Abner at bay, and this has allowed Espinoza now a chance.
Indeed it has. Andres Espinoza coming up from 10th earlier on in this race on the grid. And like you said, Joe, he's going to have a chance here. He ducks back in line. Not going to make a pass down here into De La Roja.
Macbeth dealing with the damage from the contact he had with Modov earlier. Not sure how easy it's going to be for him to keep Abner back there. Less than 5 minutes to go. Ooh, side by... Oh, and Galaz is off track. Galaz with a cut course outbraked himself into Rettifilio. Take a look at the replay. Absolutely locked all four of them up.
Yeah, he had a lot of pressure in his mirror. That'll do it.
Pressure in his mirror and an attack on hands.
Yeah.
He thought he could make a pass. Oh. Just decided it's better to take the pain and took the slowdown penalty. That shuffles him down to 16th. Oh, and Macbeth is having some problems because he's got Espinoza to his inside. Espinoza is going to be able to get it done. Acosta isn't quite yet. Oh, actually, Macbeth fends him off. Espinoza's still behind. Oh. Are we going to go 3 wide? They're fanning out. All the way to the outside. Acosta finds himself a little bit of space. Nose ahead. Goes to Espinoza. He tries to be deepest on the brakes. It's not going to work out. Macbeth comes back at him. This is a fighting spirit from Sean Macbeth, the Californian. Not only stays ahead, but pulls a gap out of that. Acosta now to the inside of Curva Grande on Espinoza. Andre has a slight nose ahead. Manages to keep him at bay as they work through De La Roja and gains a slight bit of ground on Macbeth. And as all this has been happening, let's stay with this because this is the most intense battle. Dzube has cut the lead down to Hefner. With less than 3 minutes to go, I got a feeling that Tyler Dzube is going to be very, very hungry for his first win in this series.
Oh, absolutely. They are getting closer and closer, but While Dzube is going to be hungry for his first win in the series, Zachary Hefner is going to be just as hungry for his first win in his first race in the series.
Absolutely. Dzube doesn't want to be showed up by a newcomer. As these three work their way down towards Parabolica, it is still Macbeth leading Espinoza, leading Acosta. We'll have 2 laps to go now. And we actually do have to go to the leaders now because Dzube is closing down. They come to the braking zone. Number 21 couldn't quite get close enough.
We'll see what kind of run Dzube gets through Curva Grande.
No matter who wins here, this is a win for the Tifosi because both cars are leading the way here at Monza, home ground in Italy. Dzube still patiently waiting. What is he setting up for? Is he thinking of trying to get cute? Is he going to try and slipstream by? Through both of the Lesmo corners. The right-handers leading to this long straight down towards the final chicane of the lap. And Zach Hefner's responding. He's a little bit farther ahead now, Nick, than he was last lap.
We saw Hefner leading the train of cars early in this race, and he was putting on the fastest lap of the race. So he hasn't needed any help in ways of draft or slipstream to make that 123 machine any faster than it already is. He's done a fantastic job tonight in his debut, but he's going to have to hold off Dzube for one more lap after they come out of Parabolica.
Tyler Dzube got himself a podium last race. What about this one? It's looking like a very likely podium unless he has some sort of contact or major error. Can he get himself a win? He's reeling him in. Defensive move from Hefner. He's going to force him around the outside. You could still get the job done. He's very strong on the brakes. Dzube's got the racing line, remember, that's all rubbered in. And he's well ahead of him. For the first time this race, we've got Tyler Dzube up at the front.
What a move on the outside there. I did not think he was going to be able to get that done. But what will Hefner do to answer?
Oh, I think he's going to maybe have a go into De La Rosa. No, he waits behind him. Tyler Dzube, this has got to be tense moments for him. It's been a while since we've seen him this close to a victory. Through the first Lesmo, still stalking behind him. He's using every inch of track and then some. Right on board with Zach Hefner. Again, this is his very first race here in this series as far as we're aware. He's got a decent run, but I'm not sure he's got enough track as they come down to Ascari. Tyler Dzube not even going defensive as they hit the braking.
Hefner is going to have to try to set something up for Parabolica, but that's ever so risky.
He also uses every inch of track, runs it slightly off course. This time he's got a defensive move. Dzube not taking any risks. Drifts back over slightly to the racing line. He holds the inside, but they're going to go side by side. Hefner's going to try to go the long way around. Could he maybe cut back for... It doesn't look likely. Tyler Dzube is going to take the win here at Monza. Modoff gets third. Sean Macbeth, who has somehow held off these three, this final bits of the race, is going to settle for fourth. Espinoza gets fifth, and Acosta with P6. A nice little battle for 11th place. This is Uribe and Daniels. Uribe lacking that qualifying lap. Has climbed his way up to 11th. I don't think Daniel's nearly close enough to try and get him here in the final quarter. Oh, and Tyler Guillemette. Actually, Tyler Guillemette has done one of the most unusual things I've ever seen here at Monza, and that's saying something because I've seen a car manage to pull itself off the wall.
And it looks like right at the finish, Pablo Uribe may have run out of gas because Josh Daniels actually beat him at the line. He was very slow.
Oh, disappointment for Uribe. We're going to watch Gilmet one more time. Some sort of glitch is, well, that's a nice place to put your car if you want to see the underside of it, but otherwise, I would not recommend that. That is going to be the last of our battles here to the line. As we watch the last of the cars work their way towards the finish. We're going to take a break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. If you stick around on screen, you're going to see all the upcoming races here on GSRC. Welcome back to Monza. Oh boy, was this a race. And the PRL Racing League gave us some fantastic action, not only during the race, but after. We're seeing a very spirited discussion in the chat between the likes of Modoff and Macbeth. We'll get to that in a second. Before that, let's give a huge congratulations to Tyler DeZube. I have a feeling this will be a popular win in the paddock. He beat out Zach Hefner, newcomer, who certainly should be proud, and I expect we'll see him at the top of the scoring pylon before this season is over if he returns. Carl Modoff still managed to finish on the podium this time. He got a third place. Sean fight for fourth. He and Carl Modoff ran into one another with mere minutes to go on the clock, and that's what sent them both backwards out of contention for the win. Andre Espinoza was just behind Macbeth at the line. He takes fifth from starting 10th on the grid, and then Abner Acosta manages to get sixth. Federico Montini with a P7, and then Dan Revito takes eighth. Fernando Borda finishes ninth today, and Pete Mobrotten rounds out your top 10.
Brett Thurman is going to be back in 11th after starting 17th. A great hard charge for him as well, but also for the driver right behind him, Joshua Daniels, who came up from 25th to 12th. A great run forward for Pablo Uribe, who we knew he had speed despite starting way back in 36th, not setting a qualifying time, but nonetheless a great 13th place finish for him today. Corey Clark is going to get 14th, and Jean-Marc Tremblay overcame some issues earlier to round out the top 15. Jorge Flores was one of those drivers that was really not able to overcome issues earlier on in the race. He's going to wind up 16th after starting 8th, so disappointing day for the 929 car there. But Hugo Galaz, Sebastian Maciera, Joey Trungale, and Lucio Vargas will round out the top 20 behind him.
21st goes to Kenny Rodriguez, with Cristobal Valenzuela finishing 22nd. Danny Duchesne, another good climber forward. He qualified 35th. He finishes 23rd. Takeshi Kita takes 24th, with Mike Cray finishing 25th. Lee Peterson, probably a little bit of a disappointing 26th for him today. Tyler Gilmet, 27th. First car lap down with a wreck on the final lap. Gary Schilling takes 28th, and Mike Richter 29th. James LeBlanc 30th. Manuel Paredes, 3 laps down, 31st. Maxi Sorella, our first DNF, 32nd. Justin Rame, 33rd. Christian Eisler, unfortunately, all the way down in 34th. Jerome Bertone, 35th. Daniel Rooney, 36th. And Ben Perez, 37th. That's some big names taking a hit in the points today. So we've got our winner ready to talk to us, and last week we seemed to have gotten a very happy Tyler DeZube. I expect tonight is a very ecstatic Tyler DeZube.
Oh yeah, there were some. This is embarrassing, but there were a few shouts and screams after I crossed the finish line. This is definitely the peak of my sim racing up to this point so far.
Is this your first win in any PRL series that you've ever had?
It is. This is my second season. My first one last year, I was a bit more consistent in the top 10. I think I had a P6 at Sebring. But yeah, this is...
It certainly looked fun out there as you were fighting with the top 3. We watched you stay behind for a long time with the likes of Hefner and Modoff just waiting in 3rd place. Was that simply saving fuel for this race? Because we didn't see you jump anyone in the pit stops, and that surprised us.
Yeah, so I was doing a bit of fuel saving. I wanted to make sure I could do that extra lap with what turned out Modoff could also do it. So we and I went. I felt like we had a great in lap, but it's tough to make up tenths at this track. So as you saw, it didn't really make much of a difference. But yeah, once that happened, I decided that 3rd spot is so tough because P2 is drafting off of P1, so you can't really get around them on a straight. And so I had to fight with Carl a little bit so that he would lose the draft a little bit to P1, and then I could finally get him on a straight.
It all worked out in the end. Before we let you go, is there anybody you want to thank for this victory?
My wife for neglecting her for all week so I could practice.
Well, again, a huge congrats. I think we're all smiling just as much as you up here in the booth. This was a well-earned victory, sir.
Well, thank you.
That was Tyler DeZube, first place to... Who came in just behind him at the line is Zach Hefner, and Nick has caught up with him.
I have indeed. And Zach, it's our first time talking to you up here in the GSRC booth, and you've got to be excited. Your first race in the PRL series turns out to be a 2nd place finish.
Yeah, it was a very good race. I was surprised to be up there with those guys, and it was very clean. I can't complain at all. And 2nd place finish is pretty crazy for the first race here.
Yeah, for a while we thought it might be a 1st place finish. You had to hold off a very hungry Tyler DeZube for his first win, and that was that did not end up in your favor towards the end. How was that battling with him already?
Yeah, the end was tough. There's a little bit of lap traffic, but I can't blame it all on that. That's he caught up to me. He was flying, got right back in the draft, made a great move. I watched the replay, and he broke. Probably a good, 50 feet. No, maybe not 50, but 30 feet later than he should have, and he made that move in the turn 1 stick, and that was very clean and very impressive.
We saw you. You kind of broke free from the Modoff and Macbeth battle behind you that did not it took a turn for the worse after you broke away and started to get up there in first and second. To get in that position, though, you had a bit of pit strategy. You were the first one to come in, and Jazube and Modov kind of jinxed you and left you out there by yourself.
Yeah, they saved a lot more fuel, which I believe is why they were able to stay out a little longer. But I've noticed in doing the races at Monza lately that even if you undercut, you come in first before the other guys, you actually get you're not losing that much, surprisingly, even with them saving fuel. So, because I probably had to take probably 3 or 4 liters more than them. So I was actually kind of surprised to fight going into turn 1 when Motive came out of the pits.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we love seeing new drivers, especially when they're as fast and competitive as you are. Should we expect to see you next week at Spa or further down the season? You think you're going to stick around here in the PRL?
Yeah, I should be sticking around. Basically, do the IMSA series in iRacing. So PRL here, especially with a bunch of teammates. I was like, why not? Give it a shot. And practice is already done for the week, so just jump in and go racing.
Absolutely, that's what we like to hear. So, Zach, I'm sure we'll be talking to you again sometime down the road in the booth if you can put up the results like you did tonight.
All right, thanks, guys. Appreciate the broadcast. Appreciate the league. Good job.
That was second place, Zach Hefner, and we've got the last driver on the podium ready to talk to us. He was just off the podium last time, and he managed to get back on here at Monza. But Carl, judging by the post-race chat, it doesn't seem you're happy with this third place.
No, yeah, it's it's never awesome to get third after you win 10. But no, I had a really good time. I was really just trying hard to keep up with the Ferraris. Those Zach and Tyler, congrats to both of them. Tyler was really fast. So I was just trying to hang into their draft as long as I could. So I got a little excited there because I didn't want to lose the draft because I knew we couldn't run with them. And I got on the gas a little too early, so sorry to Sean. I definitely, I was kind of watching his car exit towards, the exit of whatever corner that is, and he kind of came back, and I had already committed to trying to get back by him, so I was full throttle, and I hit him. So sorry to him about that. Just got a little heated there.
Sounds like you've had a little time to cool down. And talk to us other than that, because we don't want to focus on the negatives so much. What about exiting the pits right as you had Zach Hefner beside you? He gave us his perspective and how he was a little surprised about that. But what about you? And how great of a battle was that going into that first chicane?
Yeah, that was a lot of fun, and that was cool. I was really bummed, honestly, when I came out of the pits and I saw him right there, because I was just really trying to save fuel, thinking that was the only way I could get a win was if I got maybe 2 seconds ahead of them, because anything less, they would get my draft and instantly catch me. So as soon as I saw him, I was like, this is going to be tough. I was looking forward to that battle. Yeah, it was a lot of cool. Monza's always good for racing, so I'm glad it's over, though. I'm looking forward to Spa and being done with these really high-speed tracks.
Yeah, seems like you're getting all 3 in a row. Now, some drivers sometimes talk about having slumps and things not going their way. A 4th and a 3rd for most drivers wouldn't be a slump. But I mean, how are you feeling about suddenly you had so many wins and now you've barely been managed to sneak back onto the podium?
Yeah, I'm feeling good about it. It's, I was been asking for, or in my mind, I've been hoping, faster guys would join so we could get, it's the same guys. Just everyone's gotten a lot better. So the competition's better. It's what I kind of been wanting. So no complaints here. It's just I have to work harder if I'm going to beat these guys. And I haven't worked hard enough the last 2 weeks. I could have a million excuses, but none of them are going to make a difference. They beat me, so good for them. Congrats, they worked hard and they deserve it, and but I got some work to do for the next round, so coming back after them.
Well, sounds like wise words, and we look forward to seeing you at Spa. That was Carl Modov, our 3rd place finisher here today, a current champion still after winning last season. And got to say that sounds like a very pleasant competitor, honestly. We could tell that he was upset in the chat, and then he comes on here and immediately apologizes and then even puts his hands up and says, I need to work harder to try and get these wins. That is the racing spirit right there. We're going to close up here at the Global Sim Racing channel. Before we do, we have to thank our sponsors for this season. First of them is Simulation Motorsports Association, SIMMSA. You can find them at SIMMSA.net if you're curious in seeing how they can help you in your sim racing. And also to Frazier Deeter. Their website is at FrazierDeeter.com. Also, a thank you goes out to iRacing for bringing us on the iRacing eSports network. Make sure and subscribe to them by clicking on their big red button that says subscribe on their YouTube page. Thanks to companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. And additional thanks go out to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Nick, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. You can also check us out on social media. We're on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. As we mentioned, we're going to Spa next week. That'll be Tuesday, April 16th at 9 p.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.